Good evening. My name is Robin Citizen. I'm the director of, thank you, festival programming and Cinematech here at TIFF, and I'm super excited to present the world premiere of Sanctuary. I would like to thank our lead and major sponsors, Bell, RBC, Bulgari, and Visa for their continued support. Thank you to our major supporters, the Government of Canada, the Government of Ontario, Telefilm Canada, and the City of Toronto for their continued support. And most importantly, this film is eligible for the People's Choice Award. Vote for your favorite films at tiff.net/vote. We would like to thank Charades and United Talent Agency for providing us with this film. Zachary Wigon's first feature film, The Heart Machine, premiered at the South by Southwest Film Festival, and we are pleased to have the opportunity to launch his latest film here at TIFF 22. To say it is a spirited film is an understatement. The dynamic between the characters simply crackles. Now, none of this would jump off the screen without the sheer cinematic charisma of the film's two and only actors, Margaret Qualley and Christopher Abbott. Margaret Qualley is undoubtedly one of the most talented actresses working today. She has been seen most recently as Anne Reinking in the Fosse Verdon miniseries and Alex Russell in the acclaimed miniseries Maid. Her most recent films include My Salinger Year and Stars at Noon for Claire Denis. Yes. Ooh. The always incredible Christopher Abbott is known to many from work on the television series Girls, and from his leading role as Yossarian in the 2019 Catch-22 miniseries. His most recent films include Black Bear, Possessor, and The World to Come. We're pleased to have the opportunity to speak with our guest after the film, so please stick around for the Q&A. But here to say a few words beforehand and to introduce his cast is director Zachary Wigon.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight to check out the world premiere of Sanctuary. We're quite thrilled to be premiering it here at TIFF. And I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the all the filmmakers, the cast and crew, to thank Cameron Bailey, Jane Shodel, Robin Citizen, and everyone at TIFF for giving us this wonderful platform on which to premiere the film. Thank you. This is the culmination of a lot of hard work that a lot of people really put everything into. Margaret and Chris, it was an amazing thing to watch. They really gave everything they absolutely had into their performances in this film. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'm very excited to speak with you about it afterwards at the Q&A. Thank you very much.
My name is Amar Kishore. I'm part of the programming team here. Please welcome back director Zachary Wigon.
I'd like to call up here Christopher Abbott. The writer of the film, Micah Bloomberg. Our cinematographer, Ludovica Isidori.
Okay, we're going to turn it over to the audience in a sec, but you heard the response. This is a really amazing film. We're thrilled to have it here. It's quite a ride, Zach. Tell us about how did this come to you, and Micah as well, you know, what writing it was like.
Well, so Mike and I were on the phone in June 2020, and we were both going a little stir-crazy at the time. And Micah said to me, I'd really like to just write some scenes. Maybe we should develop something, I'll write it, you direct it. And basically, I I had been interested for some time in making a thriller about a dominatrix in a very abstract way, just because the paradoxes of the job being one where a dominatrix has all the power over her client, but also none of the power over her client, was interesting to me. So I pitched a very, very vague idea of just a thriller about a dominatrix who robs her client, and Micah's response was,
oh, right, that I had a one-act play that was really similar to that, that was about the same thing. So we looked at that, and then we kind of went from there. And then I was just trying to think about like a scenario that was just about one person getting over on the other person, like over and over again, back and forth, and then like as it's going along, you're like, wait, what's actually going on here? And a movie that was, I think like all movies are basically that, but I wanted to make a movie that was like just those two things. So yeah.
Right. Chris, you're one half of this movie, which is incredible. Can you talk about what is it like being in such a contained, intimate film, intimate spatially? Did you do a lot of rehearsals? What was it like working with Margaret through all of that?
Yeah. Is this on?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was going to be, I mean, first, well, Margaret and I have been sort of looking for something to work on together, and this was the most vain one we can think of. So we thought this was just us for 90 minutes. That'll be good. And Mike, known for a while. I think Mike is a great writer and a great playwright. And to me, this sort of felt, and Zach's first movie I loved, so it all sort of lined up in a way. Also, the pandemic had just happened, and this isn't like a sad thing. I just wasn't working, and I was like, I need some kind of spark, because I was really enjoying not working. By the way, I was really into it, and I was like, I need money, so let me. So let me do this tiny film, and so I was still working on that. But but all those kind of stars were aligned for this one. It felt like we were working on a play, and I mean it can be a play, but this one's a movie. It's a play and a movie, and man, oh man, do we talk in it? And it was all the challenges that were there, and I wanted to try, and there you go.
Well, you said that it could be a play, but I do want to talk about the cinematography. It is all taking place in one hotel room, but it's kind of incredible the variety of dynamic ways you find to do scenes and blocking and all that sort of stuff. So can you talk a little bit about what that process was like? Was it coming from you? Was it coming from Zach? What was your working relationship like?
Well, I mean, you're really on the script, and it's an amazing script. It reads super fast. It's like a ride in itself, but it's two people in a room. So it's like, okay, how are we gonna do this, and not just like present another like pandemic movie or whatever. And like, I think even if like the camera wouldn't move, it would be enough because we have like such talent in front of it that's enough. But I had a conversation with Zach, and he's just like, he blew my mind. It was like, okay, how do we make this a ride? Like, how do we make this a movie and not a play? And we just like spoke on Zoom for like a couple of weeks, and then I flew to New York, and I'm very pregnant, and he was so cool that he just like got me on board, and he was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And we just like tried to wrap around our minds to find something that was like creating a rhyme, like absorbing the public, but without taking away from them. Because, they're like a little more about the rhythm, the atmosphere, like where the camera and the music like works in like harmony with the performance. But like the last thing you want to do as a cinematographer is like taking away from the actors and like having the camera being so predominant to like distract you. And I think we found a good balance, and like I'm super proud of the movie, and yeah.
Right. So, let's get some questions. Raise your hand nice and high, and I will do my best to repeat it. Any brave souls? Questions? Yes, go ahead. So
Really
a question
just
about, sorry, I'm just going to repeat it. Question about Micah, you had a one-act play that was similar to what Zach pitched to you. Is there anything that came over from that?
No, really just the scenario. Like, there's two people in a hotel room, and like a dominatrix and a client, and you're like not sure exactly what's going on. And then, but the safe word in that is sanctuary. And then Zach read the play, and he was like, well, the play should be called Sanctuary. And I was like, well, it's too late. It's already called this other name. But then he said we call the movie Sanctuary. And I was like, oh, that'd be a good idea.
Okay, other questions? If I can't, yes, right there, go ahead. Yes. If I can rephrase that a little bit, you know, we don't necessarily get a whole lot of backstory. Was there anything there that you had in mind, either you, Chris, or Zach, or Micah, you know, for these characters and what they're bringing to each other in this moment?
Personally, when the script was finished, the script was in such a strong place, and it read so effectively, beat by beat and scene by scene. Personally, I'm not one for adding explanations of backstory if they're not really necessary. I think sometimes in movies you see that and it feels a little bit like answering a problem that doesn't exist. So I think that if possible, it's better to keep the audience just sort of fully focused on everything that's unfolding in the present. So I never felt the need for there to be, you know, more explication of the backstory between the two. As far as how it affected, you know, you in prep and the rehearsals, I can't speak to that.
Well, we talked a lot about how, you know, these characters are always sort of lying, you know, all the time, and you never know when they're telling the truth and what they're, you know. So, you know, the backstory might be a lot. You know, there's no. It's all about what you play or what you're essentially not playing. You know, these are people playing. You know, the layers sort of kind of keep getting pulled back. And it's under this totally surreal umbrella, really. So, you know, it's I don't know. It's like a world that doesn't quite exist on.
It's fuzzy.
Yeah.
Micah, when you're writing it, are you thinking about any of that? Are you keeping kind of your own notes about, you know, what this character went through, or is it all coming out on the page?
You're saying about backstory?
Yeah.
No, yeah, I really agree with Zach. It's like, I think it's like once it starts rolling and then like the scenario is good and they're talking to each other, that like Margaret's story about her teeth was like very late in the process because I was like, we wanted to know like a little bit more about her. So it's like, what's one thing? And then that story, I think, is just like this little glimpse that you get. And it's really strange. It's like a confusing story. And I think at the end it seemed people understood it, but it was like, and then that was exhausting just to do that. So yeah, no, I don't.
Because I think what you're speaking to is that, like, oftentimes you do see films where it feels a little bit like someone got a note, gets a backstory in there.
Or there's like a campfire scene, like they sit around the campfire and they talk about it. Yeah, like a campfire scene where they're like, when I was
it's like,
a boy,
and here, let me, and we've talked about sometimes that's a moment where you're like, all right, gonna go to the bathroom now, come back in 2 minutes. So I think personally it's just better to, the story is what unfolds in the present. So as much, if the film can be as much focused on that as possible, I think that's to your benefit as a storyteller.
More questions? Yes, right there. Go ahead. Yes. Wait, sorry. That's a great question because, you know, I was wondering that a little bit when I first saw it, but I'm also a film person, right? So I thought maybe I'm just reading into that. Was there any of that in the story at all, or is that just us projecting onto it?
You know, first of all, I thought I heard it at first maybe say it was for Chris. I didn't. That was a different question? Oh. So, yeah, no, actually, it's funny because I was on the phone with Margaret just yesterday. We were just like kind of catching up with the thematic business of the film. And I was talking about how it's interesting that this is a story about two characters who are very much confined by the rules and the rituals that they undergo in this space. But within that confinement, they find a lot of liberation, right? It's like your role is to be the submissive one, my role is to be the dominant one, and it's okay for you to be that way, and it's okay for me to be this way, and that's all you have to be, and that's all I have to be. And there's a kind of like release, a letting go, when someone is told, you just have to do this, that's it, I'm just gonna do that. And so I was saying that to Margaret, and then Margaret was like, well, that's a little bit like what it felt like to act in this movie. Because, you know, the blocking was exceptionally specific, because we made the film in 18 days. So we had to kind of like go through it quite quickly. So the blocking was quite specific, and the shots were all pre-visualized. So that was all sort of discussed and worked out in advance. And so anyway, Margaret was saying that it kind of gave her, as an actress, the opportunity to feel somewhat liberated, because you know, you go here on this line, you turn on that line, and then when that's all worked out, you're able to sort of like release or liberate yourself within those confines. So I think you're right on.
Okay.
So, yeah.
More questions. I'm going to step out of the light so I can see everyone. Anyone way in the back? Yes, right here. Go ahead. So I'm going to throw this question to Micah. Can you talk a little bit about the gender dynamics of it? Obviously, gender is a big part of what's going on here. And when you're writing the script, are you thinking about the comedy of it?
Right. I mean, I think, yeah, each person I was just trying to like, when they were going for the power, I was trying to like use all of the tools at their disposal to give them the power. And then Chris and Margaret just took it to like the nth degree, and I think all of that stuff is just like in the mix, like as we're making this. And for me personally, it's like I don't think we had like a particular axe to grind about like with a message or something like that. It's just like what's the most interesting, entertaining, like scary, weird, funny thing that could happen. And yeah, when I was just watching it just now, it's been a while since I've seen it. I was like, I think what we were all trying to do is just like put as many different emotions and colors and like experiences into each moment as possible. And so if it comes out funny, if they like, Chris and Margaret did stuff that was not supposed to be scary, it was supposed to be funny, but it comes out scary here. And there was stuff that I thought could be kind of, you know, like oh, that'll be like scary, and Chris does it funny. But and the way that Zach and everyone, the crew is like putting it together, it was like all the emotions that you could pack into each thing. I guess everyone's trying to do that, but yeah.
Okay, we have time for one more very quick question. Yes, go ahead. What inspired the look and feel of the hotel? Can you talk about the production design?
Yes, so the idea for the hotel room, there were two key things. One was that because basically the entire film was going to be set in this hotel room, it had to be relatively aesthetically busy. It couldn't be, you know, there's a lot of like contemporary hotel rooms where there's not a lot going on in terms of the interior design scheme. And if the hotel room looked like that, it would have gotten tedious to your eye after a certain period of time. So there had to be, the wallpaper had to be busy to a certain degree, right? The carpet had to have a pattern. There had to be enough like aesthetic business going on there to keep you constantly stimulated with what you're seeing. And then the other idea was to have it feel, I didn't want it to feel like a kind of super sexy, super contemporary hotel room where you might expect a rendezvous like this to occur. There was something interesting about it feeling a touch quainter than that, just a touch, to sort of increase the tension with regard to the fact that this meeting is happening in a hotel room that's a bit different from where you might expect it to happen.
Right.
And can I add one more thing
Yes,
to
yes,
this?
please.
I think there's something about not making it like hyper-realistic, like modern and just like white and bland that I think like plays on what Chris mentioned. The fact that like these, like you're constantly seeing two people playing roles and they keep shifting and switching roles, but you never know at what point they're like playing with each other or playing with the audience or actually being truthful and what being truthful even means. And I think like the environment of that like helps.
Right. Well, I also wanted to ask you, just to wrap up, about the lighting in here. You know, it looks and feels very simple. It's a lot of practicals, it looks like. Can you talk a little bit about what the challenges were there?
I think the main thing was like making it believable, but also like lighting for the emotion. And like there's moment like when they have sex where like they inhabit two different color space and they're like opposite, but in a way there's a hint of each other's world in the lighting of each other. So one is blue, but there's a hint of red and vice versa. And it's just like, you know, making sure that the lighting also modulates throughout and changes as their relationship is changing. So sure, make it believable, but like adding little things here and there and color that like just amplify their emotional journey, because that's what it is about. It's not like, oh, the hotel really looks that way. It's like, okay, what is the turmoil that's going inside them? And
Amazing. Let's hear it one more time for Sanctuary.